Outer space was beautiful, but INUYASHA's eyes were not upon the stars, or even the large earth in which he came from. His focus was now fully on the fully intersected sun and moon, that each had an unconscious maiden in its center. Kikyo was in the full silver moon, and that had black veins all over it, and all were connected to her as her body was clothed in shadow. Kagome was in the sun center. Her body was clothed in orange fire, as its darker orange veins were covered in the blazing golden star itself. Kagome, it's me. It's INUYASHA. I've come to take you home, the half-demon said as he reached out to Kagome, only for a golden barrier to stop him. My daughter is home, a deep voice said. INUYASHA looked above him to see INUYASHA looked above him and Kagome to see a man dressed in the same fire as Kagome was. His hair was golden fire, his eyes were sky blue, and his whole body glowed with a golden light. You're Harato, aren't you? You're Kagome's father, the sun spirit, the half-demon lord said rather than asked. I am, the man answered. Please let her go. Kagome has a life on earth, and people who need her, like Sango, Kilala, Shippo, Moroku, and me, INUYASHA said, begging for the first time in his life. You were able to come here because of Ami, weren't you? Harato observed. Yeah, she told me Kagome is resisting the Sunseat's spell. She wants to go home, so let her, INUYASHA demanded, but Harato only shook his head. This is what must happen. Without me or Kagome here, the sun will burn out, and the whole world will become cold and dark. Then life will vanish from the planet, as it is from me now, he said as the golden light on his body was now being transferred to Kagome, who was glowing brighter by the minute. I don't care. A world without Kagome is worse than death, the half-demon lord growled, making Harato frown. If you insist on trying to stop this event from happening, then I'm afraid you must be silenced, the sun spirit said as he formed a large fireball in each hand and launched them towards INUYASHA, as he then charged at him, using his fiery hand as weapons to fight the young lord, who took out his sword and began to fight Harato. Why would you do this to your own daughter? INUYASHA questioned angrily as he used his sword to stop each fireball that was thrown at him. Because I have no choice. The world will die if something is not done, the sun spirit shouted as he threw an extra-large fireball at INUYASHA, grazing his shoulder and making him cry out in pain. Upon hearing the painful shout, Kagome's eyes shot open. While their details were still outlined with a golden light, she could clearly see INUYASHA in pain as she tried to fight her father. INUYASHA! She cried as she tried to break free of the sun's center, but failed. You woke up? Harato questioned. Hold on, Kagome, I'll get you out! INUYASHA shouted, using the opportunity to try and rush over to the Sun Miko with a wounded shoulder. But Kagome shook her head. No, INUYASHA, go back to Earth, she said sadly. The half-demon's eyes widened. What? He breathed. There's no way to stop this. Tell Sango and Kilala they were more like sisters to me than Kikyo ever has and ever will be. Tell Shippo to grow stronger and for Moroku to look after Sango. And you, take care of yourself. I'm sorry, the Sun Miko said as tears began to evaporate from her cheeks once they found their way out of her eyes. I'm sorry, but that's the one thing I won't do for you, Kagome, especially since I know you don't really want this, INUYASHA yelled as he continued to fight Harato. Stop, please, I don't want to see you die, so please, just leave. I'd rather you live your life on Earth, knowing that you're safe as the sun forever, Kagome begged, continuing to weep. That's when a bright golden light on Kagome and her father began to transfer into the sun itself. All Kagome and INUYASHA could do was stare at the scene in wonder. Impossible, Harato stated breathlessly. Father, what's going on? Kagome asked as she and INUYASHA turned to the sun spirit, who paused for a moment before speaking. Your sun seed is separating itself from you, Kagome. What? INUYASHA and the Sun Miko asked. The sun seed has the spell to turn Kagome into the sun, but something is transferring the spell into the sun seed itself, the sun spirit said. What are you saying? INUYASHA asked. The sun seed is releasing Kagome and turning into the sun itself, Harato clarified. I'll be free? Kagome asked in a hopeful voice. That's awesome, INUYASHA boasted. However, the transfer of the sun seed spell isn't happening fast enough. And if it doesn't... Wait, what? Kagome asked. If the sun seed doesn't transfer completely before the eclipse is over in a few minutes, then Kagome will become the sun instead. her father said. Then how can we speed up the process? There has to be a way, INUYASHA demanded. I think you already know the answer. Think about why you came here to stop this from happening to her in the first place, and what drove you to wanting her to come back to Earth. Harato questioned the half-demon as he turned over to his daughter. Kagome, why did you want him to save himself over you? The Sun Spirit questioned. Then, as if on cue, both the Miko and the half-demon's faces lit up. I know why, they said in sync. The eclipse is soon to end. You must both do something to get the last bit of the sun seed's power out of Kagome, Harato said, as they all noticed the sun and moon beginning to separate from each other. INUYASHA thought for a moment, and then turned to Kagome and placed both hands on her cheeks after putting his sword back in his sheath. INUYASHA? Kagome questioned softly while blush rose to her face. We're going home, the half-demon promised as he leaned over and kissed the Sun Miko's soft lips. Kagome froze, but only for a moment, as she then kissed back. Once their lips touched, the golden light on Kagome and her father's body left them completely and went into the sun, peeling its orange veins and releasing Kagome into INUYASHA's arms. Kagome! INUYASHA shouted as the Sun Miko then lost consciousness while he covered her body in his robe of the fire rat, since the sun's fire had burned away Kagome's kimono. Kagome, wake up! The half-demon begged as he cradled the beautiful Miko in his arms. Don't worry, Kagome is safe. She is only very tired after the sun seed left her. But I hope you will have a good understanding of what's happened. Kagome is now a regular Miko. Her spiritual powers remain, but she no longer has the power to heal or bring back the dead with her sun powers. They are gone forever, Harato explained as he began to fade away. INUYASHA looked down at Kagome asleep in his arms, and then back at her father. Understood, the half-demon said softly as he held his Miko closer. Harato smiled at the scene. Take care of my daughter. He trailed off as he disappeared completely. I'm scared. What if they never come back? Shippo cried as he sat with Sango and Kilala and watched the eclipse end with fearful expressions. Look! Rin shouted from Sesshomaru's arms while pointing up to the sky above them. It's INUYASHA and Kagome, Moroku clarified as he patted Sango's shoulder while they watched INUYASHA and Kagome land in front of them. INUYASHA! Izayoi cried out to her son as she ran up to him and Kagome, who was still asleep in his arms. Are you both all right? What happened to Kagome? Sango asked as she and Kilala rushed up to the two as well. I'll fill you in once we get Kagome to the best bed in the bedroom in the castle, the half-demon said as he walked past everyone into the castle. Well, he's not wasting any time, Moroku stated slyly, earning a hard tug on the ear from Sango. Ow, 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 Sango, I'm joking, the monk whined while everyone else shook their heads. Well, at least they came back, Shippo sighed as Kilala meowed in agreement and turned into her smaller form. Kagome found herself standing on a dark tunnel with a white light at the end, and standing in front of the light were her mother and father. Mother? Father? She questioned. Where are we? We are between worlds. Oh, my sweet Kagome, how you've grown into a fine young woman. I have missed you so much, my daughter, but I'm afraid I must leave you yet again, Ami said, making Kagome's eyes widen. What? No! Why can't we all stay together? She wept as her mother and father each took one of her hands in their own. My child, you have your whole life ahead of you now, Harato said softly. And your other loved ones are waiting for you to open your eyes. Ami trailed off. What? I'm asleep? Kagome asked. Her parents then let go of her hands. We will always be with you, they said to their daughter as they disappeared into the white light at the end of the tunnel, while tears streamed down Kagome's face. I love you, was all she was able to say. Kagome groaned as she opened her eyes to see that she was in a grand bedroom lying on a soft futon mattress, wearing a green night kimono, and kneeled at her side was INUYASHA, holding her hand as if he was afraid she would slip away from him. INUYASHA? The Miko questioned as she saw the half-demon. Kagome! INUYASHA exclaimed as he brought her into a hug. INUYASHA, where are we? What happened? The Miko asked, hugging the half-demon lord back. We're back in my father's palace. Once the sun seed's power separated from you, it became the sun, and your father, he's gone, INUYASHA said as he released Kagome from the hug and stared at her with much relief as he still held her in his arm's length away. Kagome let out a soft sigh. I know. I saw my mother and father. They told me to wake up. How long was I out? The Miko questioned. 2 days, INUYASHA replied. Everyone's been so worried, waiting outside the room ever since we came back. Wait, everyone? Kagome asked. Yeah. Sango, Kilala, Shippo, Moroku, my mother, Rin, Sesshomaru, Koga, Ayame, Kagra, the half-demon answered. Kagome stared at him in shock, making him smile with a softness she had never seen before. Don't look so surprised. You may have only been in the world for a few days, but there's a lot of people who care about you, he said as he then continued. But before you go out there, I wanted to talk to you about a few things. INUYASHA trailed off. Okay, what is it? Kagome asked. What's the last thing you remember before falling asleep? The half-demon asked. Kagome blushed. You and I kissed, and afterwards... Nothing, the Miko admitted. You passed out once the sun released you, and before your father vanished, she said you would no longer be able to use the power of the sun ever again. Your sun powers are gone forever, Kagome. INUYASHA trailed off. Kagome was silent for a moment before speaking. I'm free, and freedom is more important than my sun powers. And I still have my spiritual ones, so no great loss. I'm my own person now, the Miko said with a genuine smile that made INUYASHA blush. Kagome, we both know why the sun seed released you, and why your mother said I would be the one to save you. The half-demon trailed off. Yes, I do know why, Kagome trailed off. I love you, the two said as they turned to look at each other. They both blushed at each other's words. Kagome, you helped me see that I wasn't alone. You taught me how to smile again. You're the most amazing girl I know, and I'd be honored if you'd become my mate, INUYASHA said seriously. Kagome blushed once more and gasped softly, but then smiled. INUYASHA, you helped me become stronger. You protect me when I need it, and it's because of you I can now live the rest of my life with everyone I hold dear. I'd be more than happy to become your mate, the Miko replied as she cupped both of the half-demon's cheeks in her hands and kissed him as he kissed her back on the sun a few days ago, while he kissed back.